Hello, my name is Chris Jackson, and today I'm going to be having a very, very deep and powerful and enlightening conversation for mainly any coaches or entrepreneurs that are heart-centered, that are purpose-driven, that are wanting to really tap into their own potential at this time in the world. And I am speaking with a very dear friend, Ollie Trew, who is a spiritual business coach. He is a very heart-centered entrepreneur. He's a business owner, and he travels the world running retreats. He travels around enlightening people like coaches and people that are wanting to tap into following their soul's calling and follow their nature of their true nature in a business. So welcome to the show, Ollie. Pleasure to have you here, brother.
Thanks so much for having me. First little thing to say is that we're in Mexico, where we had a retreat before, and so the internet is on and off. And so for those of you listening as well, it should be good. If it goes out, well, the Mexicans kind of come, a lot of our locals around here come online at this point as well. So we should be good. But I'm excited to be here, Chris, and share the love and the magic. And most of our business is online. So that's going to be exciting to talk about that. For some of the coaches out there that haven't necessarily pivoted yet, and for some that have. So yeah, awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for chatting. So we're going to cover a whole range of topics, and I'm excited because we're going to cover a lot of practicalities about the practical nature of being successful in business, as well as some of the spiritual aspects, some of the deeper aspects of what we need to tap into. So keeping it quite balanced, and that's what I like about you is you're very pragmatic. It's looking at spiritual. Like I even just love that title, spiritual business coach. It's combining just the most beautiful elements of what's required to be successful as a coach. So I love that. So you travel around the world and you run retreats. I met you in Bali, and you are meant to be running a retreat in Tulum. So do you want to just give us a quick update as to what brings you to that part of
Yeah,
the world? What's going
so
on for you right now?
I love what you're saying as well. For all you heart-centered coaches, entrepreneurs, how do you frame yourself up watching this as well? Yeah, so me and Chris are in Bali, traveling, creating, and I'm sure like a lot of you, you're thinking, or if not actually traveling the world before Corona hit, before these things happened. And so for us, what we wanted to do, myself and Denisa, my soulmate, partner in crime, if you like, as well, we traveled together. Pre-corona, we set ourselves up to be both sides of the world. So we have a retreat in Thailand, whereby the retreat would mean that we would travel near Thailand, which is how we end up in Bali, Chris, and meeting yourself and so on. And then we have a retreat in Tulum, or just outside Tulum, which is Mexico. Both retreats are very different. One retreat is about stepping up and stepping into your power and really owning your energy, your power center, and expressing yourself, not just as a coach, but I believe most importantly that coaching is leadership. Chris, I'm sure you feel the same thing as well. Maybe we'll get into that a bit more. And so that's what Thailand's about. And then in Mexico, we have a much deeper spiritual dive called Soul Connection. And that was due to happen in about 3 weeks' time. And we've postponed. We like to think of ourselves as kind of black sheep. We were holding back and thinking, maybe we'll run the retreat anyway, but we've postponed it for safety. And now we're gathering up forces, and now we're changing tactics, which a lot of coaches out there listening as well are going to need to do the same, like pivoting. So more online membership program stuff, more online coaching, and just changing the structure, because I think people are wanting different things now. There's a different context to where we are with Corona.
I love that. Things have certainly changed a lot. I love the nature of the retreats. I love the leadership focus there and the stepping into your power. And I think that probably leads into the global situation right now. And the time of this recording, it's I'm in Australia on the Saturday, the 11th of April. At the time of this, obviously there is incredible uncertainty, and for a time like this, sometimes there can be the tendency to label that uncertainty as a whole lot of other things, as be fearful, time to be worried, time to bunker down, all these sorts of things. And I guess as coaches, sometimes, well, not sometimes, a lot of the time, we're going to be challenged with the same things that our clients are going to be challenged with. And so I'd love to explore the challenges that are going on right now for a coach, but also how do we need to show up? And I loved what you were talking before about leadership is how do we need to show up as a coach right now? How do we, there's obviously no one size fits all, but this is an opportunity for a coach to decide, how do we want to show up? What do we want to stand for? How do we want to be the walking, talking embodiment of what it is that we're teaching? So I'd love to hear your take on on what do we stand for and how are we approaching things right now in this situation.
So it's interesting because for me, Chris and everyone watching, some things have changed and some things are exactly the same. Like you and I, for example, Chris, like I'm sure we'd agree, we're the same people. And you coaches watching, I'm sure you'd agree you're the same people and you're the same people in creation. Like you were heading towards a specific direction before this crazy situation with the virus, with everything else in the world came along. You're still the same person, which means I'm still the same powerful coach. Those of you watching and Chris are still the same incredible coaches. And I think it's my personal theory right now. Some people see coaching as a luxury. I think coaching is a necessity right now for those people that really want to get a head start, that really want to get forward as well. And so I think the biggest fundamental tweak for me is seeing coaching, if you're a coach, as a necessity right now. Seeing that you are the vaccine. Let's not get too far down that line of those things, but we are the vaccination, are we not? Like in this process, like we are the ones that have the skills and that capacity to change the world for the better and help this, I call it like a raising of consciousness that's going on with the virus, with the pause, with the planet resting, with all of these positive things as well. We are the ones to do that. But I think a key thing for everybody is that business seems to halt. And perhaps some of you can relate to this in terms of clients. Maybe you have the same, Chris, pausing payments or rearranging or thinking about signing up for programs. The fundamental thing for me is I think we need to make that shift. And we've certainly made that between coaching being a luxury and coaching being the most poignant thing right now. So imagine if those of you watching, your coaching is literally the single most important thing for your clients, and you come from that energy, because everything is energy, right? We're in this spiritual context. You come from that energy, not the energy of it's really hard right now with Corona. I think that's the first piece. The second piece is I think the landscape has changed in terms of Corona, the external context. And I think people, rather than looking for the yacht, they're looking for more the life raft. So what I see, Chris, and this may be the same for some of you watching, is that we want to peak and we want to provide people with more quick wins. That's the simplest way I can put it. So what is the quickest win we can get for clients? Let's say you're a spiritual coach. What is the quickest win, the quickest peace, for example, or happiness that you can help clients to get to on a daily basis? If you're a business coach like us, it's like, what can you do to help clients get quick wins or get an offer together that they can put forward to their market? That's what I see as most important, that the yacht is there. There's a further future focus, but there's more of a life raft. There's more of an immediate need and desire for our clients. So those are the big things. There's plenty more that I could say about it. But fundamentally, you spoke about leadership. We are the leaders. You have to lead yourself. Chris leading himself. I have to lead myself as well. We're trained for this. And I think us coaches are in the best possible position to help people at this time. There's no better time to be a coach, basically. And we should mention that all coaches, myself included, had years of experience of this, and then film production and beatboxing and other businesses. All of us, especially coaches, have imposter syndrome. It's a really important thing to mention, where you might feel, I'm sure you've had this, Chris, you're growing your business, for example, and you're helping people with business coaching, and then they're maybe not getting the results, maybe because of Corona, other things as well. And you feel like this imposter thing. And I can't emphasize enough how important it is to just be one step ahead, 2 steps ahead, and be a stand for your clients and my clients getting to where they want to get to, from being those 2 steps ahead and just bringing them forward like that. We don't need to be like 10 steps ahead of people, just a couple of steps ahead.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that people are still going to need coaching. People still have all the challenges and people still have all the goals and dreams and things that they want to create. And I really love that metaphor, as it's more around the life raft right now, which is still incredibly valuable. And I think that's one of the things I've been really touching base with my clients recently, is finding out, is all the projects that we've still been working on still relevant? It's relevancy. It's making sure, are we focusing on the thing that's the most valuable? And you touched on pivoting. And I just want to touch on that, because that's one of the things I've been interviewing a lot of thought leaders in the last week. I've been doing quite a lot of producing a lot of content around this concept of pivoting, which is leveraging our skill, knowledge, and experience. And you've got a wealth of knowledge, and you've done everything from beatboxing. So you've obviously got an incredible skill set there, and like we all do. And so there's this notion of pivoting, which is we might need to do things slightly differently in this current situation. We don't need to completely do a 180-degree turn, but it would be looking at things slightly differently to be able to leverage our skill to make sure that we stay relevant, and we make sure we position ourselves so that we're still helpful, we're still very highly relevant to the market. So I'd love to know what your thoughts are on staying relevant, and for maybe coaches feeling like they need to pivot, or maybe they feel like they need to change what they're doing. I'd love to hear your thoughts on how to approach that.
Yeah, and I actually want to hear yours as well, if you're bounce back and sharing. And I know everybody does interviews differently. Like, I like to conversation, like bounce things back as well, because I know you're asking me things, but I'd love to hear that. If you already shared it with your viewers, maybe they get to hear it a second time. For me, that's a really good question. How do we stay relevant? I think the first thing is, we're always required to cut through the noise. And the single best way, I am Ollie Trew after all, and I'm a big stand for people, all of you watching, being aligned with your 100% truth, not your 98% truth, not your 70% truth, everything else, your 100% truth. I think that's the key thing. And that's never changed with Corona going on and everything else. But we lie to ourselves. I think we lie to ourselves something like every 5 minutes. We tell hundreds of lies, Chris. Like, I'll be laughing in the wrong places. Like, those of you watching will be doing things that aren't really true to ourselves, right? And we leave like our inner children and things like this behind, which is a whole different topic as well. So our inner child, your inner child is thinking about being playful and these things, and the adult is often in charge, which is a whole different discussion. But the key thing for me to stay relevant is this, is to come back to what you really stand for, who you really are, who I really am at the deepest level, at the soul connected level. And then to say, what am I a stand for in this world? Is my business, is my mission, is it aligned right now? I think now is a really good time to stay relevant by checking in with that truthometer, that 100% truth. And the 100% truth is uncomfortable, right? It's things like, I'm in the wrong business, but I've been pushing because of the money. Like, maybe some of you are doing spiritual coaching, or maybe you're doing health coaching and you realize you've moved quite far away from health, which is a really good example. And actually now you're speaking about love. Now is a good time, I think, to pivot and get into that lane where it feels loving, it feels flowy, it feels aligned, it feels really truthful. Because we don't want to be like, Chris, we don't want to be trudging around in the mud, do we? Like, you know, going along, especially now during Corona stuff as well, in a business that isn't fully aligned with you. And then the next part of that process is to say, okay, what's my messaging like? Like, is my messaging, is my alignment, is my branding, is it clear for my audience? Do they get what I'm about, which is the two sides to branding, the identity and the positioning? Like, my identity is me. It's like my Olliness, like you're getting a bit of my Olliness here. My positioning is obviously how I'm perceived, Chris, you know, how you're perceived as well, how those of you watching this are perceived as well. And the simplest way we can get your positioning is we can look at things like your social media profiling. It's like, does that come across? Do people get what you're about? When they watch some of your videos, or you're watching this interview with me, do people get what your positioning is, like who you are? I typically help a lot of people with love, power, and flow. Those are things that come up a lot in terms of coaching conversations. And I love all aspects of marketing, but are you clear, those of you watching, on who you are and what you stand for? And when you're posting on social media, is there a deliberate ploy to it? Or is it just a random post about Corona and these things as well? Or does it give people that sense of positioning? Like, this person is the authority, they're the person to go to. I want to work with them now.
Yeah, I love that. And that's one of the things that I was quite conflicted with, actually. And I know a lot of the listeners will be resonating with this, which is this idea of being the authority, deciding to niche into something when they haven't necessarily mastered something themselves, or, you know, deciding to niche into something and then maybe fearing that, well, if I niche in this area, I may be turning my back on all this other work. And so that's one of the things I had to confront, where originally I started out as a pure business coach, because my mentor was a business coach. And so I thought all the money was in pure business coaching. So I was looking for consulting, and I was working with companies like Mercedes-Benz, and I was doing the high-end business stuff with business owners. But then I realized, as you were saying before, I wasn't really aligned with that. I really didn't just resonate with just helping someone make money. It was, I want to help them with all the other dimensions of their life plus money. And so there was I had to surrender that identity of, I'm Chris the business coach. And now it's like, maybe I'm Chris with business plus life plus spirituality. And there was this whole new reality to embrace. which wasn't an easy thing to do. It's kind of like a snake shedding its skin. It's kind
Yeah.
of like walking away from something that we'd held on to quite dearly. So I mean, I'd love to hear your take on that's a challenge that pretty much every coach is going to go through ongoingly as they dial in on
Yeah.
that niche.
I love it. I think we should speak about client speak versus practitioner speak. So if you're a coach, as I think everybody is watching this, there are terms that we use in coaching. We use things like alignment, for example, is a good one, that sometimes people don't understand. Like, that's practitioner speak. Or we might say get dead centered, or get soul connected, or things like this. Sometimes people get this stuff, sometimes they don't. So there's practitioner speak and then client speak, and I think that's really important. But we're all, let's just say this, we're all multifaceted. Like, I'm multifaceted, Chris is, all of you watching, I'm sure, are multifaceted. And therefore what we're really doing is we're picking a core skill set, we're picking a main skill, or we're finding a way to refine that skill so it can be said in one sentence, like, this is what Chris does, in one sentence. This is how he helps people in one sentence, or this is how you help people in one sentence. Because even though we're not networking in person now, you know, the elevator pitch for me still stands. It's still really important. Do they go away and say, Ollie does this and Chris does this? That's why I like the spiritual business coaching side of things as well. It kind of gives it in a nutshell. And I'm a big fan of, like, say it as it is on the tin. But if we go and say, I'm a coach, I do this, I do that, I do that. I think people get it when they've had the experience. When they haven't had the experience, and when they're thinking about approaching you and I, Chris, I think it's really confusing for people. And so I'm for that constant tweaking, like tweak to make it crystal clear for people what this is all about. If I go networking, I will change my pitch the whole time, and I'll just tweak it and test it and see what people are vibing off. But here's a good one. For all of you watching, and I don't know if you've got a pen and paper or you're just watching this casually, what I invite you to do is to write down your pain in the arse client, basically. This is a really good one for this as well, so you can get niched up. Your pain in the arse client is the exact client or clients that you really, really don't want to work with, basically. And I'd write them down. Oh, the internet's having a little spiritual refresh. Okay, cool. So, like, Chris, I'm sure you resonate with this as well. Like, some clients that are so much hard work for us as coaches that they're just not going to get the results that they want. And so all of you watching, if you understand your pain in the ass clients, the people you really don't want to work with, I think that's really going to set you free. So for me, I love doing deep coaching. I know you're the same, Chris, as well. Some coaches are more hand-holdy coaches. I don't really like to do the hand-holding. I like to just say it how it is, and have somebody grow and then come back. And for example, I commented on one of my clients' social media posts, and she got very upset with me yesterday. The thing is, I see that I often have my coaching hat on. Don't know if you relate, Chris. Mm-hmm. My friend hat is there. But when I'm working with someone or I'm creating clients, I don't think clients have got, they're created. I'll have my coaching hat on, and I'll be very deep. So I don't like to work with clients that are not deep. They're not intense. They don't have a big mission. For example, if I work with a client that has like a small mission, it doesn't get me excited as a coach. Perhaps you can relate to that watching. Mm-hmm. And maybe you enjoy watching, helping people to take their next steps, and that's totally okay. So this is your pain in the ass factor. If I have a client that has just small dreams rather than a bigger dream ambition, I find those type of clients my pain in the ass clients, basically. I'll want to stretch them, and they don't want to be stretched, for example.
Yeah, I love that. That was actually
we've got a bit of internet spiritual refresh, but
we do. It happens from time to time. That was actually one of the questions that I asked I did a 5-day challenge. I did a couple of 5-day challenges earlier this year, helping clients sort of narrow in and dial in their focus. And that was one of the questions: was who do you not want to work with? Who are the clients that you actually want to avoid working with, because they either don't align with you, or you don't resonate with them, or they're just not going to be able to be confident that you can help them get results. So it's an equally valid question to ask, who do I want to work with and who do I not want to work with? Because through asking who do I not want to work with, sometimes the greater clarity can be created and generated by asking that question. And then the extension of that is going to be, well, who would I absolutely be delighted to work with? Who would I be so inspired to work with that I would, if the phone was ringing at 3 in the morning and they were having a meltdown and they needed my support, who would I love to pick up the phone and support, because they're just
So true.
they're
Yeah.
just such a juicy, amazing, wonderful client. So I find that a big part of that is tuning into that energy and tuning into that awareness of who is that client, and like when I'm chatting to them at a networking event, like I don't know about you, but when I'm doing enrollment conversations with clients, the sign to know that I'm working with someone that I want to work with is I get goosebumps, because I love their vision. I love their dream. Like there's a soul to soul connection that's going on in that conversation.
I'm with you. If you don't want to hang out with your clients, right? If you feel that if one of your clients invited you round, you probably wouldn't want to hang out with them. I think that's a surefire sign. I think it's a really good thing to mention. I mean, obviously hanging out now in person is a little bit different with all that's going on, but for me, I like to call it like different modes. So in Trew Method, my method of coaching and healing with a lot of help from the universe, and I train people up to do Trew Method now. So there's 17 Trew Method practitioners as we speak, doing this method of coaching and healing and helping people find their deepest level of truth to create from there. Now, all of my clients at the moment, touch wood, I think without exception, they invite me round. One of them's got an amazing jacuzzi in her house, for example. It's like, I want to be there, I want to hang out. And in Trew Method, we have what we call a professional friendship hat. That's the way I like to see it. And then a coaching hat. And my coaching hat is on quite often. I'm a bit different maybe to a lot of coaches in the sense that some coaches just completely switch off from coaching. I'm kind of always on. I'm always on and I'm always off. And if I'm working with someone, I'm very intense, because I could be on their social media, they might be chilling out, something else, and they're creating something they don't want to create. And I'm aware of it, and I might just be there and I might comment on that social media, because I see that our highest order as coaches now, especially with Corona, is to really serve people on a deep level, deep level. And so the professional friendship hat is you want to hang out with them. But I think I'm also have my coaching hat ready, maybe of the same, Chris, if I'm hanging out with them and I see that they're holding themselves back, because they'll be super relaxed in the jacuzzi or whatever. If I pick something up, I'll always share it. That's my promise to myself. And that's my promise to clients as well. I like to, and I'll say to all of you coaches, coach on the edge of your seat, coach on the edge of your pants as well. When you feel like, you can't say something to a client, it's the time that you absolutely have to. I'm sure you relate, Chris, say it to them. And most of the time, peeps, let's face it, it's money. Money comes up a lot in this conversation as well. And what I see, Chris, is when we come to enrollment conversations, coaches, perhaps some of you watching, step out of serving when it comes to money. So a client turns around and they say, I can't afford this. And what do we do as coaches? I know I had this, certainly like rising up as a coach. We back off the money conversation when we should be really serving somebody and saying, what if this coaching journey or what if this retreat was the most life-changing thing for you? What if it was the single most important thing that you do in your lifetime? Like right here, right now, this coaching for this year long of this program. So I love that. And I think that flips the switch in terms of Corona and what's happening as well, to have that level of intensity where the client's like, oh, this isn't just a nice to have. This is something that can truly transform me.
Mm. I love that. It's not shying away from going into what a lot of people might call confronting territory, which is to actually talk about the stuff, to actually talk about this stuff openly. And I think that's one of the biggest things I learned in enrollment over many, many years of doing it the wrong way, kind of falling on my face and really kind of avoiding the whole, like, you say, and by the way, this is how much it costs, and then kind of getting out of the way and then kind of hoping that there's no objection, as opposed to, no, this is what it costs. Let's talk about what it costs, because this is a big part of what coaching is about, is you being committed. And if you've got issues around money, well, that can be the first coaching session. That could be that's the first thing we need to look at, is you placing enough value on yourself to want to basically place time and attention and resources on your life's most important projects. So yeah, I do love that. And I think that's something that's coming up for a lot of people right now as well, is the security around money and the certainty. And I touched on that at the beginning of the call as well, which is, yes, obviously there is times of incredible uncertainty, but that doesn't necessarily have to transpire into fear. That doesn't necessarily have to be your world is ending or Armageddon. That could be a complete new transformation. That could be a genesis of a new version of you. And I did a post, I did a video during the week on reinvention, and on how I believe that this time right now is the reason why every single human on the planet can be up-leveling, can be standing for something greater. This is the ultimate challenge, that if you were needing an excuse to step into a higher version of yourself, well, this is the slap in the face, or this is the nudge, or this is the maybe the little cuddle that you needed to remind you that, you know, you are powerful and there is a huge opportunity waiting on the other side of this. Or it's already being created as we speak. So maybe we can touch on opportunity and uncertainty and kind of really shifting gears rather than bunkering down.
Yeah. So this is really good to bring this up, because Chris and I, as we're getting into this interview, I had uncertainty here in Mexico around the internet connection. The actual place we were going to record this interview was in a co-working hub, and when I got there, high-speed internet, there was this massive buzzing sound, which Chris thought was quite spiritual, but I thought was maybe a bit much for all of you watching. And so I came back, and actually at the start of this conversation, we had a lot of uncertainty because the internet wasn't working at all, and it was just cutting straight out. And so I think this is really, really great as coaches, because our main job, as I see it, Chris, is to have certainty for our clients. And I think this is a really key thing to bring this up. If you're watching and you're a coach, even all the marketing aside and all the techniques and things that we could talk about as well, and sales and things like that, I think the number one job as a coach is to believe. A number one job as a coach, and even more so, is to believe in your clients. You know, you're working with Chris, right? I'm sure you feel, if you're watching this, I'm sure you feel like his belief in you. And Chris, I know you know the feeling with your mentors as well. I certainly know that with mine. I'm a stand for believing in my clients. And if I don't believe in my clients 100%, then I need to get out of there. I'm the wrong coach for that position. Now, belief, believer, be love. I love this. Like somewhere along my coaching journey, maybe on a retreat or something I was doing, one of my coaches mentioned this idea of be love. So if I be love on the spiritual side, that helps me to believe in my own coaching, and that helps me to believe in clients as well. So I think this is really vital. We talk about now uncertain times, things like this as well. The certainty of belief in clients, and I can help you, and I'll find a way. Move aside Ollie, move aside Chris, and let spirit come through, and I will find a way to guide you through your highest truth to make this time with Corona the most productive, most incredible time. And I don't just say that lightly. Certainty carries through everything. So yeah, we want clarity of products, we want offers, and there's strategic things to do now. But if you don't have the certainty to be able to sell that and hop on calls with clients, everything else, it ain't gonna fly. You know, it's not a product on a shelf that's just purely branded up, ready, and it's in the supermarkets positioned there. We're selling transformation. And this is the key thing, I think, as coaches, that A to B journey with the C in the middle. It's like, how do you take them across what I call to the promised land here? Is so vital. And we got to believe in that with our whole heart. We got to know, in my case, highest truth here, deepest truth across this other side, where you travel the world, you have your own business, you're completely free. You can do whatever you like. You know, I have to have that certainty. And it helps, right, Chris? You know the feeling to be doing a lot of the things, you incredible souls, that you're speaking about doing, like sharing from that place, not from the place of you're learning the specific thing that you're doing. And that does happen. People share about health when that's what they need most. And they're still going through the health thing as well. Encourage you all to consider that you're 1 or 2 steps ahead, but focus on your area. If you're doing spirituality like me, if you're doing business like me as well, it's like master those areas, get really, really good at those areas, and then share from that place. People are going to feel it in a whole different capacity.
Mm-hmm. I love that. People, the clients, they pick up energetically. They will pick up intuitively, you know, your own sense of certainty and your own confidence in that. Yeah. So, you know, it's funny. I've done a lot of sales trainings over the years, and you know, there's a lot of techniques, and there's a lot of this is what you need to say, and this is the 10 steps to selling, and it's like the most. Let me know if you agree, but the most important aspect of that whole process is belief. Is you actually believe in what you're doing so genuinely, so deeply, enthusiastically. You can't help but rub off all over your client. They go, wow, I just feel like I'm being bathed in certainty. Like, so that's a really important thing. And I think I'd love to hear your take on it. a lot of coaches will be asking, well, how do I get to that level of certainty? How do I get to that level of authentically owning the results that I can support a client in? And what happens if there's areas where I don't know if I can support a client in as well? Because that'll be something that comes up for a lot of coaches, which I'd love to hear your take on, is when you're talking about creating tangible results for a client, obviously a client has to create the results on themselves. So there is certainly the transformation we can help a client with. And there is some mysterious unknown element. You can never predict exactly what the results are fully going to be. And so I'd love to hear
I want to dive in here because this is so beautiful around this as well. And I want to amplify the energy around this, not for the sake of it, because I'm really passionate about this. This is where we bring in the spirituality and the business, whether you are a spiritual business coach like me, or you're doing something else, you're health coaching otherwise. The crucial thing here for me is this: ego versus soul. The soul, the guidance, the surrender, like, as you know, Chris, is where I can coach really powerfully, where all of you watching can coach powerfully. If I'm here in my Ollie-ness, if you're here in your Christness, or if you're here watching in your Eunice around, that's only one level. I like to call it channel 8. And channel 8 for me, channel 7, I think, is where I'm underdoing it, where I'm fearful. So I have different channels that I think about, and this is really powerful, I think, for coaches to get into. Channel 7 is where I'm worried about what people are thinking, worried about what my clients are thinking, worried about what new potential clients are thinking as well. So I'm in my fear, I'm in my, you know, that where we're not quite in, Chris, like you're just trying to get in gear to coach and things like this. And you could think about it like cycling, or we could think about it like running, we're getting into a rhythm. Channel 8 is what I call my sweet spot, or through God, or through a creator, or through angels, if you like, as well. It's where I'm completely freaking guided. I get the fuck out of the way. It's not a BBC program, so I think we say get myself right out the way. Channel 9 is where we overcoach. This is a really important one to share with everybody as well. If you are overcoaching, you're compensating for something. Yeah, and then we want to go back. It's like, why am I overcoaching, oversharing with clients? Because there's a sweet spot. Channel 8 says, if I'm not sure that I've got a particular area, for me, it's like, I can serve somebody around this as long as I'm a champion for them, as long as I'm a champion for what they want and all the ways that they're getting in the way of that. So even if I feel like I'm not mega focused on, like I do a lot of fitness and things, I'm not mega focused on diet and things like this. And Denise, my girlfriend, is, but I would still coach somebody there if I need to go there. Because the crucial thing is, I think diet can give people access to the business side of things, for example. Finances, even if you're not a financial coach, might give somebody access to self-love and what they really need in that moment. So we've got to go there. And our limitations as coaches are what show up in coaching. So I don't like to rely on me, even with all the skills and the practice and everything. I like to rely on spirit, which is where I think it gets much more powerful. And in spirit energy, it's like we'll be a champion for coaching on the edge of our seats, and saying, actually, what I'm feeling in my body is this, or what you're saying there, I think is holding you back, or you're not loving yourself and everything else, even if it feels really awkward. I think I've been told to literally fuck off by, certainly on retreat, by one client and then 2 other clients as well. And I think this is what it means to really, really go deep when it comes to coaching and preparing clients for what that level of depth looks like. E.g., I'm going to interrupt you in conversation. There's interrupting with love, or there's just interrupting generally. I'm going to interrupt you and I'm going to interject. Look, I've heard that story a number of times in coaching conversations. When are you going to just crack on and do it? So there's many aspects to me. There's many aspects to all of you watching. What I encourage is that the key thing here is a deeper level of coaching. It's a more powerful level of coaching. It's a deeper level of belief. And when you have that, somebody leaves the conversation and they're like, holy fuck, I just spoke to Chris, I just spoke to Ollie, I just spoke to whoever's watching this video, and they're just like, wow. And I'll never forget that conversation ever in my life, because you serve them so freaking deeply that it doesn't matter about Corona and everything else. They're like, I want to do this. And that's how we amp the price up, the fees up.
I love that. I love that. It's cranking the pricing up because it's adding so much more value. It's the wow factor. I feel so connected, like soul to soul connected with my coach, that they stand out from all other people because I feel something that I've never felt before. And I love what you're touching there on helping a client navigate their way through their blocks and their resistances. And one of the concepts that I got from one of my mentors, Jamie Smart, was this concept of subtractive psychology. Around a lot of the time in life, it's not about giving someone more information. It's not about adding. it's not about like stacking up more and more knowledge and facts for people to remember. A lot of the time it's actually removing the misunderstandings. It's actually just removing the piece that just wasn't serving them. So it's not like we need to have fast and
Yeah.
fast. It's not like we need lots and lots of extra knowledge. You can go and get a client to read a book to acquire the knowledge. A lot of our value as a transformative or a spiritual coach, or like a really powerful coach, is to be able to see how can we draw out the misunderstanding? How can we remove that limitation so they can naturally just go on and get the result that they're going to get anyway, because they've got their own innate capacity on their side anyway. Like they already have incredible potential. It's about just removing the handbrake, removing the obstacle, and that allows them to get on with creating a result. So I love how you articulated that. That's beautiful.
I love it. It's all an energy, right? So yeah, it's interesting how I might say something or you might say something, Chris, and their vibes differently, and it lands with people eventually. I think it's so key, and I wonder what you feel about this as well. Most of the time, I think for a lot of my life, I wasn't really implementing what I spoke about. And this is a key point to bring this in for coaches as well. It's so easy for us as coaches to say, I know that, I've heard that, I know that. I know I should have a avatar, this type of thing. I know I should be niched, or this should is really dangerous in amongst these. But also, I know I should be doing like a morning ritual or something like that. It's so easy to say that, but to know and not to do is the really essential thing here. To read a book, like The One Thing is one of my favorite books for productivity and just keeping things simple. Or Surrender Experiment or something like that, where you're truly practicing surrender and not put it into action and actually practically apply what's happening as well, is the greatest shame. And I think is one of the greatest reasons that coaches come unstuck and take years and years to make their business successful, or don't make it successful at all. It's that lack of implementation. To be a master requires us, it's so fun, isn't it, Chris, this game as well. If you're in this coaching business, guess what? It's that you're constantly growing, and I get you. But we've got to put it into practical application over and over again. What does it look like to really, really love ourselves? What does it look like to be a master on camera if you're sharing online as well? And you've got to practice, practice, practice to get really, really good at this. You cannot just read the information online. This is how you grow your coaching business. Watch a YouTube video. You know the feeling, Chris. Take it, like what you end up with is you end up like a puzzle with lots of different pieces. And I feel your frustration if you have that. The reason you've got that is because you're not taking the practical steps to put it out to the marketplace. And actually see what your clients are feeling. What are they vibing off right now? If they're really not resonating with it, with your Facebook lives or whatever your messaging is, whatever you're putting out as well, you'll see that there's crickets. And that's when we know it's like there needs to be a tweak. And there needs to be a tweak in your energy, potentially, coaches watching, or your messaging, or both. You know, it's like there's crickets. If there is crickets right now, there is something fundamentally wrong. People are there, they're just not watching you. And so we need to cut through the noise more than ever right now, because everybody's at home online. And so rather than be like Chris, for example, with his amazing beard there, this type of stuff, you know, things like that. I don't know, silly example, but he might come in and talk about his beard grooming and branding himself around the beard and how he's into running and all these, that's what I'm into, I guess, but branding those things up and standing out as a differentiator. I think now is the time more than ever to have lots of differentiating factors that help us to stand out. And it's like, why would someone buy from you versus another coach? It's a key thing that I come back to quite often.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much juicy stuff going on here. The first thing I want to touch on was when you're talking about the information. What I actually went through was I went through a real need for information. Like I was like reading all the books, and I was really going outward, looking for truth. And what my coach actually recommended at the time and noticed within me was, Chris, you need to stop reading all this stuff. Because I was like, I'd read a book and I'd be like, great, I'm just now replacing my truth with that, I wasn't actually authentically validating it or going within to get my own truth. And so he put me on a hiatus. He put me on a ban for all learning. He said, you are going to do nothing, but you're going to get soul connected. You're going to go through your own connection process. You are not allowed to watch any content. He did this for about 6 weeks. And so I felt like I was going backwards. And I felt like, but I need to keep learning, because I need to keep learning all this stuff on NLP and hypnosis. And I need to keep learning because I've got to get better and better and better. And I put myself on this ban of content. And I got so connected in that 6 weeks. When I was coaching, the insights and the information, it was flowing through me. Like there was nothing in the mind. There was just pure heart to heart, like just flowing. And that was profound, that I'd never even realized was even on the menu of life, to be able to get a drop out of the mind. So I realized I had a dependency there on information. And so I managed to break that habit. And that was
it's
profound.
crazy, isn't it, Chris, on that? Because yeah, you recognize it as well. Without we can consume, can't we? And then we haven't practiced it, haven't put it into action, and so it just continues. It's a big cycle, isn't it? Learn, and it sounds like you had the same thing as me, where it's like it's never enough. You just keep learning, and we keep accumulating knowledge, and we never quite feel like we have enough to create whatever we want. You know, the goals, the coaching business, you know, particularly in coaching, it's not a business I recommend to anybody unless you're super passionate about it. So the alignment process and getting really, really true on that front, you know, if you're watching this as well, and if your business is struggling in any way, likely it will be because of your alignment, and being really freaking honest, like seriously honest, right? No one else can do that for you. You can be guided through process and everything else, but your truth is your truth. And there are various ways and modalities to get to that truth around it as well. But as you say, like that's the work we've got to do. And then the second piece of it will be your messaging. It's like, is your messaging, is it really, really clear? Is it landing with clients? Because the translation of my truth or Chris's truth or your truth, it just may not be landing, and that's freaking frustrating. Like, I get that. I've been there many times. As a shortcut, what everybody can do is you can just hop on calls and serve people freaking powerfully to the point where they never forget your conversation. But for me, Chris, we've got to articulate who do you work with and who do I work with when we're on the call. It's like, if we are to work together, this is how you've got to show up, and you're going to get results on this front. This is who I work with, Here's some examples and stories and things like that. So there's some of you watching, if you're not in motion, you're sitting on the couch, and especially if you're an ostrich and you're burying your head in the sand, it's time to put a post out there for, I don't know, 500 coaching calls this year, 200 coaching calls, whatever you want to set as a target, and get some hell yeses below that post, get some people commenting.
I love that when you just mentioned get your head out of the sand. There are times when I notice myself kind of going into hibernation. Kind of, I get a little bit comfy. It's like, no, I've got enough paying clients. Like, my business is going well. I'm just gonna take it easy right now. I'm gonna take my foot off the pedal. And what I've been reminded to do through this whole coronavirus thing was actually to be of service. It's actually, people need my help now more than ever before, and I'm gonna be more visible. I'm gonna be more vocal. I'm going to use this opportunity to actually speak louder, and to even be more polarizing, like to find some haters, to really put myself out there, to be of even more service. So that was the frame that I'm using, and I'd love to hear some other frames or some of the other considerations for coaches to stand out, to be more noticed, to find their truth, to be more authentic, because arriving at a place of authenticity and true self-expression, that's a journey to get there. So I'd love to know what have you found has been helpful to get to that place where you can stand in front of a Facebook Live and just deliver and just absolutely, just stand invincibly sharing your truth.
Yeah. I think the most important thing for everybody watching is radical self-awareness. Like, I can't get away from that as well. You know, we talk about meditation and things like this, and some people struggle with meditation, some don't. I think we could champion, or we could rise above meditation. Not to say don't do it, because definitely it's a great idea to sit in stillness and get closer. But radical self-awareness says, I know Ollie and you know you. I think that's really key, Chris, and others watching as well. So who are you, incredible souls, watching this? If you've watched this so far, what do you stand for? Here's a fun one. If I took something away from you, or I took several things away from you, what would you get really fucking pissed off about, you know, in the world? Look, if it's too coronavirus focused, probably you're not going to be helping your clients with that. If you are helping your clients with that, that's a different story. But if we're not, we want to move the focus away to talk about everything else in the messaging, and maybe just reference the context of what's happening. So I think that being a stand, Chris, for what people are truly into. Like, I'm a stand for people being freaking free, and traveling the world and being able to speak their truth. That's a crucial thing. And speaking up your truth and being, so one of the things I like to do is if I, when I'm with clients as well, like I bring my inner child out sometimes, like I do a stupid accent, like I don't know what the accent is. Sometimes it just comes out and it's Scottish.
Hey,
In
that
this
eat
case,
talk Scotsman's accent.
exactly. Just let it out, and perhaps if you're watching this, you didn't expect me to do it. But like, there's aspects of me and there's aspects of Chris that we don't bring to the fore that family and friends see. And I think when you bring all of you into the coaching space and you really bring that out, that's a whole different story. But I was saying something else in there as well. What was I saying just before that, Chris? Stream of consciousness.
The radical self-awareness.
Yeah, radical self-awareness is knowing how you work best as a human being and as a coach. That's the key thing for me. It's like, do you work best as a non-structured human being, you know, with barely any structure? In which case you can flow on your Facebook lives, you can hop on, you can do an interview like this with Chris where we're flowing quite a lot, and there's less structure. Or do you require a bit of structure? That's really important. And then when you've worked out how much structure you have, how much flow you have, and what you love most. If you love videos, great time to get on there and film videos. If you really prefer writing, let's have you staying in writing. You don't need to be on camera. It's not necessary. I'm a stand for everybody, Chris, doing what they truly love, like doing the 10 out of 10 things. And so that's one of the main things I help people with, to be all of them and to be in their truth. And for everybody watching, I think if you do that, you don't really get tired. You don't really get bored. It's easy.
I love that. That's such a good question. And what was it? What would you get really pissed off or triggered about if someone was to get removed from you? And I think for me it would be if you were to remove my life's biggest passion. Like if you were to take away my ability to do what, like, for a job or a career or a business, what I was born to do. I think that's the thing for me that I get the most passionate about, which is why I think I'm a stand for helping people discover, you know, and tap into and activate the career that they were born to do. It's like you were put on this planet for a reason, and it's to express yourself in a very powerful, empowered way. So I think that's what I get most juiced up about, most excited about. So I love that. That's a beautiful question.
I love that. Like you're a stand for passion, purpose, people doing that. So if I then go and take away the coaching stuff, I'm like, Chris, you can't do it. Like that's done, you know. Then you come back as a stand, which is really beautiful. Like, and I think this comes back to our story, doesn't it? And for everyone watching, same thing. It's like, what's your story? What are you a stand for on that front? Because what I've overcome, what Chris has overcome, and we're both similar on that front, Chris. Like being a stand for living a purposeful life, living a life that actually freaking excites you, you know, sets your soul on fire. Perhaps you're the same watching. If you're a stand for that, it's going to be so easy to talk about that message over and over and over and over again. If you're only half in your truth, or if you're like a quarter in your truth, it's going to be freaking difficult. You know, I was a film producer before, and I was pretty much chasing the money. I had my own film production business, and I'm traveling over the world, going to Africa, Zambia, Mozambique, all kinds of places to film farmers in their fields, things like this. But I was chasing the money, and I wasn't truly happy. And it took me to get to UPW 2014, something like that. See the big man himself, see Tony Robbins, to be like, shit, if I got run over, you know, I'm sure you know the feeling, Chris, if I got run over by a bus tomorrow, God forbid it's a bus rather than a Ferrari or something else, I wouldn't be happy. It was that simple, you know, I wouldn't be happy. So I think the alignment, the truth is where we want to come back to in this process. Come back to the alignment, come back to the truth.
Yeah.
What are you standing for?
Yeah, I love that. And it's when you tap into that, when you get really connected to what you really stand for, your brand gets sorted out automatically. It's not like you've got to go through necessarily go to an outsource a brand consulting exercise and say, what should I stand for? So no, just go within and ask yourself, what do you stand for? Like, I think a good example when I was contemplating what should my brand be was looking at Gary Vaynerchuk. And that guy he is his brand. He just speaks his truth. I'm just unapologetically being me. And that could sell media products, that might sell wine, that could sell an infinite number of products, but the brand and the essence and the energy of what he's communicating is it's truly authentically him.
Yeah.
So I really love really connecting with the essence of what we are. And then the selling process, the communication process, the inspiration, that's automatically taken care of.
It's a great way to turn people off as well, like by being you, you know, show the different aspects of you. Yeah, like, you know how some coaches, some speakers like swear a lot. Like I swore earlier, I don't normally swear that much. It just felt like it was true at the time. Um, I feel like our soul clients, which is the way I like to frame it, Chris, like they don't mind us making mistakes. For everyone tuning in or watching this replay, you won't mind if you're a soul client of Chris's, or if you're a soul, I believe that certain ones of us are predestined to work, you know, with me, Chris, other coaches out there as well. And if you're a soul contracted client, you don't mind like Chris falling asleep even on this interview, or me falling asleep, or me saying something silly. You don't mind because it's a soul contracted client. So I think this is really fun. We get to actually experiment. We get to be playful. We get to make mistakes and remind ourselves of that. Like, I think there was a point during this interview, even with Chris, where I was like, oh, I have to be a certain way. And that voice is there inside us. That voice is not something that we openly admit. It's like, I have to be like this. And that's like, no, you don't. It's like, I give myself full permission to be all the coach that is you, that is all of you in your business term. It's like silly accents, if that's you. Turn up the dial, you know. And business is quite fun to that extent as well. We get to turn up the dial in terms of who we are. If you work in a company, kind of a little bit different. If you work in corporate, yeah, you've got some restrictions. Okay, cool. But there are huge advantages to the corporate. But I would say on the corporate front, seeing as we're there, people are looking for people that stand out and make their organizations exceptional and make them different as well. So if you are in that space, I actually encourage everybody to be weird and wacky and bring all of that out, as well as having like a corporate edge. It's like, here's a normal human being, but they're also left wing or whatever. They're just out there. So turn up the dial. It's like, what risk could we take? You know, what risk could you take? We took a risk doing this because the internet was crap at the beginning, and it's working out.
Yeah, I love that. What risk can you take? How can you be even bolder? How can you just up level the quirkiness and the authenticity there? And I think that was one of the big realizations that I had last year when I was doing a bit of an annual review. And I recommend every coach does not just an annual review, but I do my review of my life weekly. But I evaluated my life and I said, what was the aspect of my life that if I upgraded it, it would create the greatest tangible benefit across every area of my life. And one of the big themes that came across was authenticity. I know that's a bit of a buzzword that gets thrown around. It's misinterpreted, but what I mean by authenticity was actually, it relates back to that radical self-awareness. It's actually finding out my authenticity is proportional to my awareness of myself. So it's becoming radically aware of myself, and it's being aware of where am I suppressing myself? Where am I not actually allowing my true self to flow through unapologetically? And because my soul clients, as you mentioned, and the people that are going to love to work with me, they're going to love the real me. They're going to love the quirks about me. They're going to be attracted to the true expression, those moments of vulnerability, those moments of where I'm just being real. And so that was the thing that I identified for me as being something that's really important. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on.
Yeah, I mean, you've spoken my truth out there entirely on that front. The quirks, the everything, like being you and me being me. I think authenticity is a great one as well. I think I had a coaching call the other day where I shared with clients that I was feeling tired, like 1 in 10 calls or whatever. Like I'm actually feeling really tired, or I'm feeling offbeat from coaching. Now I like to show up like high level of commitment and do like year-long programs. So like weekly coaching where it's very committed, it's very regular. But, you know, recently I've loved doing Facebook Lives, Chris, and burping on a Facebook Live or farting on a Facebook Live, or just having a sense of humor and letting it out and actually sharing it with people. Why the fuck not? You know, I think it's really cool to do. And, you know, like when we take the lid off it, like people love it. You get a lot of lols in the comments, things like this as well. You get a lot of things, and you think to yourself, like, I was on a retreat once, and I remember, perhaps you had the feeling, Chris, or some of the others watching, I remember feeling I can't take off my facilitator hat. Perhaps some of you resonate with that. Like I can't take off my coaching hat, my facilitator hat. And so I think it's really draining. And we did heart circling, where you sit around, you talk about what bubbles up in the heart circle, like what's going on and what's bubbling up. And in that heart circle, the thing that was bubbling up for me, and it was making me feel really nervous in my body, was I can't seem to surrender being relaxed and being non-coachy, which is a part of being ourselves, and bringing that in, and being coachy. I can't seem to find the balance here on this retreat. So that's one of the things that bubbled up. And that's really fun. So we want to express that. If you're blessed to hang out with your coaches watching this on retreat, or even on videos like this one as well, with me and with Chris, if you're someone that works with us or you're looking to work with us as well, what we both do our best to do is just to be ourselves. And what we really encourage you to do is to do that. And that's going to make you uncomfortable, because you'll feel like there are aspects of you that you can't share. That's what we feel. It's like, can I share this aspect? And the moment you're thinking about, can you share it, is the moment I'll encourage you to share it. The only thing I'd say to all of you coaches not to share is, if you're a health coach, you don't want to talk to people about how your health is suffering. It's just an obvious one, but you don't want to talk about that. If you're a spiritual coach, the last thing you want to talk about with clients is your spirituality. Or if you're a business coach, you don't really want to talk about your business not doing that well as well. This goes without saying. There's no way that that level of vulnerability works out that well with growing the business. But with everything else, I think vulnerability is a good one to bring in here. I like to share scar tissue. Don't know if it's the same for you, Chris. Once I've been through something, like being tired on that coaching call, I love to share it. And I love to share travel adventures where things are difficult, where they're up and down, and so on and so forth as well. But after I've been through the experience, not while I'm in the experience. If I'm in the experience, I find that the tides, and we're leading as coaches, we want to lead our clients forward. We don't want to have the roles reversed, where somebody then starts coaching us as well. That gets a little bit icky.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I
You know the feeling.
I do. It's having the awareness there to know, am I sharing this with a client because it's of service, or am I sharing it because it's an indulgence and it's me just unconsciously like just venting or just sharing my resistance? And you know, I think you're right. There's a difference between sharing unresourcefully and burdening a client with stuff that's going in our lives, versus sharing resourcefully, vulnerably, in a way that's inspiring, that's actually giving them access to some kind of resource. So I think that's the frame there. Is this resourceful for my client or not?
Yeah.
And
then there's a very delicate thing, which is the mentoring versus coaching. And we all have different styles. Like Chris, we know each other, but on this call now, while I'm here, I'm sensing you're more coaching orientated than mentoring orientated. That's my instinct, but that might be off. And this is the cool thing about intuition, about instinct. We want to have a crack and see how we go and keep practicing. That's how we get better intuition. But my intuition, even though, you know, Chris is a friend, but in coaching, is that he'd ask a lot of questions, he'd get into that. I do a bit of both. I do mentoring and coaching. Sometimes I can be in pure mentoring mode, e.g., this is what I recommend you want to do based on what you said. So we want to work out now, especially during Corona times and things like that, what kind of coach are you, like watching this as well? Like, how do you love to help people so you can tell them, this is what flavor I am? We use the ice cream analogy, but I am vanilla chocolate, just to give you an example of it as well. This is what flavor of coach I am. If we work together, I'm a spiritual coach, business coach, you'll have to be spiritual, I have to resonate with that, la 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 la. And I think this is why no matter how many coaches there are in the market, there's always room for you incredible souls like watching this, because you're different. But clients don't get that unless they've had a test drive or an experience, or unless you know through self-awareness how you can explain it to them.
And I love what you just shared there around, you know, what are we, you know, and it's am I mentoring, am I coaching, it's really getting clear on all those little elements and saying, yes, I'm this and I'm this, I'm this. It's not just a one-line elevator pitch. It's a, no, I'm this and I'm this, and this is what I believe about, and this is my philosophy, and this is how I approach life. And so you're kind of putting it out on the table. This is who I am, warts and all. I'm kind of letting it all hang out. This is who I am and what I stand for. And there is so many different dimensions of that. It's not just like when I first started practicing my elevator pitch, I was like, great, I was standing in front of the mirror and I've got to get the words right and I've got to get the phrase right. And got to come up with the exact word. Like, am I a business coach or am I a success coach? Am I whatever? Like right now, like if I was to really be honest about defining what I am, I can't do it in one word or even one sentence. Like I would, the only way I can really communicate that is really through conversation, through energetically connecting with someone. So I've kind of let some of the labels fall away, and it's more tapping into the essence of what I am and allowing that to flow through.
Yeah, I know what you're saying. I think this is where it gets very interesting, because there are many different ways to create clients, and there are many things that are key, and there are many things that are optional. And at its most basic level now, who I be, or who Chris be's, or who you be, that creates clients. You know, that creates conversations, that creates clients. But the next level up from that as well, goes for you, Chris, goes for me as well, is having that crystal clear marketing so that we create the same clients over and over again. And this is something I think about the whole time, and perhaps some of you coaches are thinking about as well. I got a crystal here, a green crystal, right? So if we want to create lots of the green crystal, again, without having different crystals, we want to get the marketing dialed in. And this is what I find is really interesting, because who I be and who Chris be's and who you be watching changes and evolves all the time. So we attract a different level and different type of client. So I'm just stream of consciousness here. Sometimes, I don't know if you've had this as well, Chris. Sometimes it can be very interesting because you can attract clients from all sorts of different walks who have all sorts of different needs in coaching. And for some of you, if you're getting that, the reason you're not getting the consistent, and Chris, you may have this as well, you'll probably have clients from all sorts of different walks. There's nothing wrong with it. But the consistent one is, the green one is a clear marketing message, like locked in, so people get it. And you get the green crystal, the green crystal, the green crystal. And I look at some of my mentors, one who has a 7-figure business, she's doing amazingly. And it's so funny on one of the programs, how similar the people are. And we're like, myself and Denise are kind of the black sheep on the program, like we're a bit different. But then her clients, like even the same age, you know, all the rest of it. And the interesting thing here is it gives business predictability, because without predictability for a lot of us, like it's kind of tricky to grow the business and be really consistent with it. So I kind of like both. I used to be of the pure who you be and grow your coaching business and don't be niched and just be all of that stuff and powerfully coach people. Now I'm a little bit of a hybrid between the marketing and who we be. Like I like both sides of it as well, because I think, you know, you get similar clients, you see the problems over and over, and then how we can serve them is we can make videos that solve that problem. Like we've got somebody else, like our video pre-recorded and things like that in the background, and then we can serve them bespoke, you know, coaching wise. So yeah, but I love what you stand for. I love who you be, and if you're watching this video, my invite for everybody is, what is your top insight? What is your top insight from this recording with me and Chris? Because the key thing is you want to get it into your being, who you be, and then take it out as an action step as well. You don't want to just hear what me and Chris are talking about and just be like, this is kind of useful. You want to get it inside your being, who you be, and then take action from that place.
Yeah, nice one. I'll add to that, which is what is the out of everything that you've heard and everything you've understood, what's the most important element that you actually need to embody, that you actually need to, because you've probably heard a lot of this stuff before, like this is the difference between embodiment versus intellectualizing, is the embodiment is actually, the process of embodiment is exactly that. It's embody, it's dropping from the mind into the body through action, through repetition, through actually being that. So what would be the most important change that you're looking to make right now? And what is probably the thing that you've been delaying or putting off for the longest that you've now heard again, and it's been like, yeah, I already knew that, because that can be the temptation is, yeah, I already knew that. Oh, no, I know that. But it's like, if you haven't done it, you actually don't really know it. You actually haven't really understood that.
To know and not to do.
Yeah. So make note of that now and write it down and actually commit to taking action. And you might even drop a comment below saying, this is what I've taken away. This is what I'm going to do, Chris. And yeah, get someone to hold you accountable to that. Accountability is a powerful thing.
Goes a long way, right? Yeah.
Certainly does. Well, thanks, mate. We've covered a lot. and I think we'll nearly wind it up. But I'd love to hear your maybe round it out with some words from Ollie. Actually, how about this? How about if you could sign off with, this was the last parting words of wisdom before the end of your departure, the end of your life. If you could sum up, what is the philosophy? What is the most inspiring message that you could share with someone in a couple of sentences about what you feel like is important to life? What is your message for life? What would it be?
Yeah, so we have spoken about it a lot on this, I was going to say live or recording or wherever we go to on this. Key thing for me is this, like, I want to come back to lying to ourselves. I want to come back to truth. I want to come back to 100% depth and truth. And I really, really mean this. This takes a great deal of practice. To live a really, really aligned, like a really truthful life is where total freedom comes from, as far as I'm concerned. Like, so my best guidance, Chris, and signing this out, is to really focus all your incredible souls on your 10 out of 10s. What are your true 10 out of 10s? Who are the people that are 10 out of 10 for you? That's your relationships. What is the business that's 10 out of 10 for you? 1 being pretty crap, 10 being freaking mind-blowing, like orgasmic, or the G-spot, some people might call it as well. What is the 10 out of 10 for you, your highest truth in terms of health, fitness, finances? All of these things go through. I swear the 9s really suck, the 8s really suck as well. And so I'm always looking for those things that are super, super 10 out of 10, and tweaking and aligning and being really, really ruthless with the things that aren't 10 out of 10 is the best guidance I can offer.
Beautiful.
Your highest truth. Go there, be ruthless, be brave, that sounds like Coyote, doesn't it, from the thing? Be brave, stay wild, if you know him, Coyote Peterson. But I mean, seriously, as coaches, we're required to be brave. And I think what you're offering right now is a necessity for everybody around you. So we've got to be in our highest truth as best we can.
I love that. Thank you for sharing, Ollie. And I'll round out with a little bit of something of my own, which would be, your role in life as a coach, as a transformation professional. Your role is one of the most, if not the most important roles of your clients' lives. Even when they might not necessarily be telling you that, the role that we play is incredible. It is providing an enormous amount of impact, that the ripples of that go out far beyond what we could ever be aware of, and generations beyond what we can be aware of. So just remember the impact that we're here to have. Remember your very, very special, unique nature about you can do what no one else can do in your own way. And on behalf of all the clients that you have worked with and you will ever work with, I thank you and I honor you, because you're a very, very special person, and you've got this. Any moments of doubt, totally normal, particularly right now. It's all part of the gig, and trust yourself and remember that you've got everything within you already to be successful. So thank you so much. Thank you, Ollie. It's been an honor and a privilege having you come in to share your words of wisdom. Thank you, brother. As always, lots of fun, and thanks for some of the laughs along the way. You're an absolute legend and a star.
Hey, big, big love. Sending it across from Mexico to Tasmania. We're on completely different time zones here, which is fun. And to everybody watching the recording as well, Godspeed. And speak soon.
Yeah, thanks, Ollie. Much love.